Hello Internet, hello world. It's me, Mr. Benyon again, to talk to you about another facet of drama that shall hopefully help you in your studies, whether you're a drama student, a performing arts student, or generally just have an appreciation of theatre and theatre styles. So today I'm going to talk to you about Bertolt Brecht. So often referred to just as Brecht, very famous and influential playwright and practitioner, German in fact, and I'll come on to why that is kind of important to understanding Brecht's ideas and theories around drama. So Brecht was writing in Germany after the First World War and sort of into the period of the Second World War. He did in fact leave Germany at some point during that process and actually emigrated to America amongst other places, but I think he ended up settling in America. He was actually kind of pushed out by the political kind of systems of that time. Why was he pushed out, I hear you ask? Well, it's because he was an incredibly political writer, and he was incredibly critical of any kind of form of government and politics, specifically the kind of government and politics that were happening, or that he saw happening around him in Germany at that period. He was definitely coloured by the kind of the country that he was writing in. If you think about what Germany must have been like in the period just after the Second World War, just after the First World War rather, due to reparations and due to lots of other kind of social factors, Germany was not in a very good state economically, politically or socially for that matter. It was actually a time of great hardship, a time where he saw, like I say, lots of poverty. There were a lot of men who were coming back either injured from the First World War, like terribly kind of injured and diseased, and in a lot of cases just not coming back at all because obviously they died on the battlefield. And Brecht was kind of fascinated, I think, by this idea of social injustice. So this idea of being a political writer and his idea of being a writer that's kind of very, I guess, involved in sort of providing a political kind of view on things. It is very true. Brecht was that person, and he would certainly, I think, hold his hands up and say that he was, if he were alive today. This idea of social justice is really, really important when you think about Brecht, because in nearly all of his plays, certainly all the plays that I've read, there's a very strong question that is asked about like the system, or about like why has this happened? Could it happen in a different way? He always kind of poses like these kinds of questions. Like, for example, in the Threepenny Opera, one of the major themes is that of money. So what does money do to the human psyche? I think the general consensus is, certainly from Brecht, is that money is a corrupting influence on people, and that business and the corruption that comes along with big business is something that we should, as citizens, kind of fight against. So in that sense, you could guess he was a bit of a communist. I think that is a pretty fair assumption. And obviously, if you're a communist, you believe that the social hierarchy should kind of be destroyed, and everyone could be a lot more equal in society. Well, that's something I think that does pervade, certainly, an idea that does pervade certainly in the Threepenny Opera. But what do we look for in a Brechtian performance? Well, I'll just kind of break it down a little bit for you. This is literally just scratching the surface. There's a lot more for you guys to do lots of research on. But one of the main things Brecht was striving for was this sense of a distancing effect. It's often referred to as the alienation effect, Brecht's alienation sort of ideas. And this, people get confused by this, but what it essentially means is he wanted an audience to be distanced from the action on stage. If you think about a classically kind of Stanislavskian method approach, it was about getting the audience, like drawing them into the action and drawing them into the psychology of the characters. And if a character on stage was really upset and something really bad had happened to them, then the audience would cry, along with the character, because they feel really emotionally attached. Well, Brecht kind of wanted to twist that around a bit, and he wanted to, if something really bad had happened to a character in one of his plays, the audience reaction wasn't to just cry. It would have actually been to ask the question, well, why has this happened? How can I change this? Was it because of something to do with government? Was it something to do with the system that this character, the situation that this character found himself in? How can we change that situation? So what he was really looking for was a much more active audience, an audience that was quite clued in and chimed into the same kind of political ideas that he was, and through his plays and through his techniques, you could do non-naturalistic things that are going to remind your audience that what they are watching is a play. It's not real life, it is a play, and he is presenting to you social ideas and social theories that will hopefully revolutionize your thinking as an audience member. So he really wanted people to watch his plays, leave the theatre, and then start a movement, start a revolution. As you can imagine, he probably wasn't that popular with the governments of that time, and as a result of that, he did, like I say, he left Germany in a bit of a hurry and ended up emigrating over to America. His plays kind of a lasting legacy really about the ideas that he brought to the theatre. As I said before, like the Three Penny Opera is a really excellent play. It's something that I study as part of my A-level syllabus. It's got some excellent kind of like stereotyped characters in it, which is another Brechtian technique to kind of really exaggerate and show stereotyped kind of caricatures of people within society, because he felt that that was the best way of kind of pushing his message. He also had a really good, well certainly within the Threepenny Opera and in a couple of his other plays, his main kind of hero, if you like, his main protagonist of the play was actually what we would describe as an anti-hero. So it's someone who is the main protagonist, it's someone who we follow around in terms of the main action of the play, but they're not necessarily a good character. So if you think of like your classic hero type, somebody who is brave and noble and strong and will sacrifice themselves for like their fellow man, well, a lot of Brecht's characters wouldn't. They were selfish characters, they wouldn't sacrifice, they weren't prepared to sacrifice themselves for their fellow men. In fact, the opposite, they'd actually go above and beyond to try and get out of a situation and maybe blame it on somebody else. Now that's quite a novel approach as well for that period of time, because like a flawed character is, in my opinion, much more interesting to watch on stage, and certainly the kind of theatre that I'm in and the drama that I'm drawn to is sort of centred around these kind of like quite complex characters that aren't necessarily all good. In fact, a lot of the time they can be quite mean. But I guess what Brecht was trying to do with characters like that, he was trying to get us to think about the question, well, what made them the way they are? What was it that made them the way they are? And in the case of Matt the Knife, I think it was money and the fact that he, you know, was a slave to his own base instincts, and he wanted to just go out and have sex and rob and kill and murder and you know, and just steal and just take things that didn't belong to him. And this is all quite fascinating and interesting stuff, I think, for a drama student to look at. So I've kind of diverted off track. I was talking about techniques, but talking about something else now. So let's talk about another couple of techniques. One of the main ones that you'll be looking for in a Brechtian play is this idea of breaking the fourth wall. So characters could break the fourth wall and directly address the audience. Now this clearly jolts the audience into a sense of like, whoa, what's going on? I'm not used to this kind of style of theatre, and that's kind of the thing that he was looking for. So remember that imaginary sort of wall that is between you, the audience, and the actors on stage. That could be broken. You could have direct narration out to the audience. Narration again was another key feature of a lot of Brecht's work. He thought that narrators were really good at obviously setting scenes and moving the play along. In some cases they would sort of let the audience know that time had passed, or you know, there'd been a flash forward within the action, and that's obviously a very important thing to help again break the illusion of the play. Another thing that you want to look for in a Brechtian performance is that the actors will multi-role. They will often not just play one character or two characters, they may play a few characters. They may also double up as being musicians, so they could actually, you'll see them on stage for 1 minute, then you'll see them playing in the band, then you might see them back on stage playing as well, and it's just kind of showing this idea of an actor being a very multi-talented kind of person, and all of the people within his group, his troupe, or he called them the ensemble, would be real good team players. So they wouldn't just be a star of the show, that it was all about that main leading man or leading lady. It was very much the responsibilities of the production and the performance were kind of split out and divvied out amongst the entire company, so everyone got a lot of kind of stage time, and everyone, you'd often see characters milling around on stage, setting up the furniture, taking down scenery, changing the lighting, as I said before, like, you know, setting up band equipment and playing musical instruments. And this all, from his point of view, I think was his way of sort of just reminding the audience, look, this is a play you're watching, these are just actors, this isn't real life. However, the issues that we are presenting, the social messages, the political messages, etc., are very real, and this is what we kind of think about them. And through that, like I said, the audience would get up and they would leave his performance feeling like they wanted to kind of change something about society. And that really, in a nutshell, is what my understanding of what Bertolt Brecht is. So check out any videos you can find on YouTube. I'm starting to add more videos to my different playlists. So if you want to check out stuff on Brecht, Stanislavski, Berkhoff, any of the other practitioners you can think of, Artaud, of course, the lovely Artaud, then please just check some of those playlists, see if you can find anything else on the internet that might be handy and useful. There's certainly plenty out there. So until next time, I'll see you later.